touching on the top prop bets in the NBA today. I'm pretty excited about the board that we're getting today on PrizePicks. Obviously can't control the board that we get each day, but some days are going to be better than others on paper. And today it's looking like we have a good board today. So I'll be going through that. I'm a little bit more excited about the coverage today than typically. Also, I'm a big Marvel fan. Black Panther 2 comes out today on Disney Plus. Haven't seen it yet, so just a solid day in general, it seems like. So one of the better bets that we're getting out there today is going to be CP3 under 10.5 assists. I'm going to start out with some under bets, then I'm going to get into the over bets. And then if we have some NHL bets, I'll touch on those as well. But looking at CP3, 10.5 is a lot of assists, obviously. Looking at the betting odds, DK Sportsbook has this currently set at -130. If we look across all the sportsbooks, and when I say all the sportsbooks, the ones that I mean are PointsBet, BetMGM, FanDuel, DraftKings. Those are the ones that I'm pulling in. Okay, so looking at it, they have it set at -142, and at -142, it's about a 59% chance that the under is going to hit. Okay, so we can see though, just looking at DK Sportsbook, they are still valuing the under here. And if I were to pull up my projections, I have them set at 10.2. Which doesn't make me feel perfectly comfortable with it, okay? That it's that close of a edge there, but the sports books are saying that's going to be under, and I tend to trust them. Obviously they know what they're doing. But let's examine it a little bit further. Why is it set at 10.5? Okay, because if we look on the season, only averages 8.7. And actually, if we were to look at the data with Devin Booker and with Cameron Payne off the court, his per 36 number is only 9.6 assists. I think it's going to come down to DK Sportsbook, or the sportsbooks, are valuing this game as a game that's going to stay close, and it's a higher scoring game. Thus, with it being a close scoring game, CP3 is going to see upwards of 39, 38 minutes like he has. And so the per 36 number that he averages with those players off the court is less, true, because he's going to get more minutes than that. Thus, that's why the line is set so high. So if you think either the Suns or the Hawks are going to blow out the other team, then the under would be good, because then CP3 is not getting over 36 minutes, and that's more likely to hit. And then for what it's worth, they are saying under 4.5 rebounds as well. I don't like this one. I actually have him projected at 5, but currently it's about the same bet on DK Sportsbook. -130. And another similar one while we're here is Kyle Kuzma under 7.5 rebound. Okay, I have him projected slightly over that at about 7.7. Once again, I tend to trust the sports books a little bit more. My projections are based off of per minute production, both with the opponent's data against that position, and then also that player, and then how many minutes they're projected to get. But either way, it's kind of looking to me like this would be one I don't want to touch, but I did want to give it to you guys because the numbers are saying to bet the under, Vegas-wise. So another one that the sportsbooks are liking the under on is going to be Derek White under 3.5 rebound. And this is one in which the data is backing it up as well. He's currently projected to get under those rebounds. Not by much, but still under. So I like that. And the Vegas lines have it 32 for the over, plus 32 collectively, and then -128. And so if I pull it up on DK Sportsbook, they're valuing it a little bit differently, -130, and then plus 100 for the over. So the under would be the favorable bet there. This is one that I don't love too much, but if we're looking at bets in which we are getting plus for the over odds and, at least -30 for the under odds, while we're looking at Derek White, we're looking at CP3, we're looking at Kyle Kuzma. I kind of like the CP3 one the best, and especially with this number being such a small number, it does get me a little bit weary there. And so a bet that I like for Derek White is going to be looking at Derek White over 11.5 points. This is one, if we look at his past 4 games, he has been close to getting over that in each game. And really, if it weren't for a neck injury in that game against Orlando, where he only had 9 first half minutes, I don't know, he just kind of had like a sword. I don't know. He only had 9 minutes in that first half. It seemed like that was the reason why he was holding his neck in between timeouts and whatnot when the camera caught it. So it seemed like, just something flared up. But then he went back in the second half, almost got the over there. So it would be 4 straight games in which he had gotten the over. And why is this significant? Because Marcus Smart is still going to be out. Okay, so with Marcus Smart out, and that's been the last 4 games, we have seen Derek White, one, average over that, but really almost be over that in 4 straight games. Now, unfortunately for NBA DFS, we can't predict injuries or blowouts, really. I mean, we can kind of predict blowouts, but injuries are tough to predict unless it's Anthony Davis. And we can see in that game the minutes were down. Okay, as long as he doesn't get injured, to me, this should be a good bet. And if we look at his per 36 numbers with Marcus Smart off the court, he does average 13.5 points per 36. So let's take a look at the spread and make sure that the game is supposed to be close. It is not. So that could be a worry. Okay, so we do have the blowout risk in there as well. To me, I don't really see his minutes hurting that much with the blowout, but obviously is a player that's already getting significant minutes, so he wouldn't be someone that would see a boost in minutes in a blowout like some of the backups would. So the potential blowout risk is there, and it's not the highest over and under game either. And maybe this is a bet in which we could maybe target a first half point type of thing if we're worried about the blowout. And I always kind of hesitate to say that because we are reducing the sample size of the data, you know, and with that, it's kind of just never a good thing. But the only time I like to attack that is in game in which we might be getting blowouts and the team that's going to be the team blowing that other team out. So in that scenario, Derek White, you could potentially do first half over points if you agree with, you know, all the information I just gave. So one of the better over bets that we are currently getting is going to be Polzin over 2.5 assists. This line is currently set collectively at -137. DK Sportsbook has it set at -135 and the under set at +100. So we can see that is a good bet on paper. If we look at his season stats, we can see he does only average 2.7. And against Washington the last time out, now this was like more than 2 months ago, only 1 assist in that game. But if we look at the production lately, we can see, you know, 2 assists there, obviously need more there. 3 got over, 1, 0, that's not good. But then 3, 2, 4, 5, 3, 3 had been consistently getting over that number over the past month. And just looking at the projections, projected to get 3 assists. Okay, so not a big edge, but that is 0.5. So a decent bet there. And so this is going to be another bet in which, you know, I'm favoring the odds a little bit more in the sportsbook. Like I said, we are getting a strong board this morning in terms of PrizePicks, basically undervaluing or overvaluing some of the prop lines that they have. And so this is going to be one of them. And so DK Sportsbook has the over set at -130, over 4.5 assists. And he is someone that on the season averages about 4.4, so right at that number. Now, if we look at the last game against Brooklyn, had over the over assist at 5. And then the game before that, went off on the rebounds, 11 rebounds, 29 points. 9 turnovers, though. That's a rough game. Wow. Okay. And then if we were to look at his per 36 numbers with Marcus Smart off the court, he does average 4.5 assists right on the dot. So once again, kind of with this bet, the biggest part of this bet is betting that the game stays close. So basically, we're betting for Kyrie Irving to really just go off with Ben Simmons off the court and KD off the court. We're betting that Kyrie has a good game, and that could potentially be a stack that you do. Maybe you do Derek White, the Tatum bet, and then also you could do Kyrie Irving. So the bet would really just be on the game staying close rather than the game blowing out. So we're looking at Trey Jones over 5.5 assists, another one in which the Vegas lines are saying should be a good bet for the over. And so DK Sportsbook is slightly different than some of the other ones. Collectively, it's about -135 right now, but they are still favoring it at -130. So obviously, we like to see that. I would say the biggest worry with this game would be the Spurs game blown out. I mean, that's been the worry with the Spurs really this whole season. And part of the worry with the Spurs in general is just the minutes. Like, they are so inconsistent with the minutes. Like, if we knew Trey Jones was going to get 30 minutes in this game, yeah, we'd be loading up on this one. This would be a solid bet. And we look at the last game against the Kings. It was a game in which did stay close, and Trey Jones got 35 minutes, close enough, you know, and 8 assists in that game. We look at another game against the Kings, was more of a blowout, only got 29 minutes, which honestly, I would take 29 minutes tonight from him, and only had 4 assists. On the year, though, does average 6.4 assists. Okay, so in theory, this should be a strong bet. We are really we're hoping that the minutes are there. Okay, and that's the thing with the Spurs is you never really know. And then while we're talking about the Spurs, Jeremy Sochan's role has been kind of crazy lately. Been over this number 5 straight games. He is a player that has gotten a lot of minutes, and we could go further back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Over this number 7 straight games. Okay, and that's kind of just become his role with Devin Vassell off the court. It's just strange. And we can see against the Kings, last time out, did have 15 points. It's just, I just want to point this out because, like, if you want to roll with the hot hand, you perfectly can. I'd be fine with that. I'm not putting it up on the little text board right there. Okay, because I just don't know what to make of Jeremy Sochan going off. So if you guys have a strong indication on him, please let me know in the comment section. And so staying with that game, I personally like Fox over 25.5 points. I have him projected to get 27. Okay, so that is a decent edge there. We can see recently has been much more productive as well. You know, part of the reason why we chased him against Minnesota 2 nights ago was the matchup. Okay. And it was at like 24.5 for most of the day, the points projection. Okay. They bumped it up to 25 because of the matchup with the Spurs. And if we pull up his odds here, they're saying, kind of more favoring the under here, okay? And that could be because the game is projected to blow out. And we can see against the Spurs, last time out, only 23 points, shot the ball pretty well, okay? So didn't really get to the free throw line. I think that's part of it. Just didn't get fouled enough to get kind of some free points pretty much. And then the game before that, 28 points, did get to the free throw line. So really, to me, it looks like he's going to get the shot attempts. It is an easy matchup. Just need him to get to the free throw line. And, if we are betting on this Spurs-Kings game, obviously we are more or less betting on the game staying close. If you are going to do a 3-leg bet with any of these kind of stacks I'm suggesting, do it on Underdog where the payout is better, okay? All right, so this bet is going to be much more predicated on the matchup with Washington. Okay, I'd feel much better about this bet if we knew that like Isaiah Stewart was going to sit. Then I'd feel very comfortable betting Duren at over 8.5 rebounds. So we pull up the game. There is the potential for a blowout risk. I really start to worry about blowout risk when it gets to 7.5 points. We can see it's close, but this is going to be a decently high scoring game. 237.5 is a high over and under. We look at the projections for Duren. It's about -135 on DK Sportsbook to get the over, which is obviously going to be a good number. The worry with him is that the last 3 games he's played in, Dallas, not the best matchup, and Brooklyn, not the best matchup, but he hasn't been able to get the over. Okay, you would have liked to see him get it against Houston. That didn't happen. On the season, he is averaging exactly 8.5 rebounds as well. And I think that's the biggest reason why they're favoring the over is the simple fact that he hasn't been over it the last 3 games. So thus kind of just natural like positive regression here. They're saying, all right, he's more likely to get the over now because that hasn't happened yet. But I would say like part of the reason why he was getting the over prior were due to some injury. We look at the last game against Washington, played 23 minutes, had 8 rebounds. Okay, so if we can get some more minutes here, it'd be a pretty strong bet. And I would say, we are more or less betting on the minutes here if we do make this bet. And just real quickly with Jeremy Sochan over points, it is favored right now, -130, collectively across all the sportsbook, -125, okay, to get the over. And he is projected at 14.8 points. So in theory, like this should be a strong bet. I have a tough time trusting it right now. I just don't know what to make of it. So real quickly, some other bets that are kind of favored, SABONIS, and I'll touch on this one in depth, I guess. And it's such a high number that it's very unappealing to the eye. But we are seeing SABONIS over 12.5 rebounds, which obviously it's a high number. With it being that high of a number, it is going to be a more difficult number to get to, but it is a matchup with the Spurs, which is one of the best matchups on the slate, if not the best matchup on the slate. We pull up his odds. They have it set at -135 to get the over. So one of the better odds that we are getting for today, -135. That's a really good number, and that's true across all the sportsbooks as well. On the season, does average 12.4, okay? Against the Spurs, the last game, 18 rebounds. The game before that, only 8, okay? So need to see a little bit more consistency there. But this is one of the better matchups. And so my projections currently have it set at 13 rebounds. So a slight edge there, which is very much matchup based. Okay, so we could potentially run a maybe 4-leg bet out there today. Maybe SABONIS over rebounds, Jeremy Sochan over points, Trey Jones over assists, and De'Aaron Fox over points. Now, guys, I always want to hesitate against like recommending stacks because obviously they are just much more likely to not hit. You want to be doing the 2-leg bets. By doing that, you are reducing the variable. And now a bet that could be good would be Cam Johnson over 14.5 points. And it's not a bet that I love, but if you look at his per 36 numbers with campaign Devin Booker off the court, he does average like 21 points. The issue with that is probably not going to get those minutes. Since he has come back from injury, they've been very hesitant to really give him a lot of minutes. We saw him get up to 33 though, 2 games ago against Dallas, and then 32 against the Spurs. And so in those 2 games, he was able to get the over. Okay, last game against Toronto, it seems like they just kind of pulled him because he had a poor night shooting. And so typically speaking, I personally like to attack players coming in off of a poor night shooting. Okay, so assuming the minutes are there and assuming he doesn't have a terrible night shooting, obviously that matchup was against Toronto, this should be a decent bet to get the over points. And then just once again, they are slightly favoring the over here as well. And so guys, if we are going to try to attack kind of that Boston game, that Boston-Brooklyn game, pretty much saying, I think Kyrie's going to step up. I think Nick Claxton's going to have a good game, which, they could easily do. So with Ben Simmons out and with KD out, we are actually seeing someone like Nick Claxton be kind of undervalued right now. And this is, I don't want to say a bet's like ever a hammer home bet, especially in a game that is projected to be a blowout. But we can see, guys, one, he's been over this number 4 out of the past 5 games. If I pull up his per 36 numbers and he gets the third most or second most minutes with those two off the court, KD and Ben off the court, averages 17 points, 13 rebounds. All right, so already at 30, and then you can add in 2.6 assists. Okay, averages 46 fantasy points per 36 as well. So, like, yes, the matchup with Boston isn't great, and that's the biggest worry, and I think that's why we're getting this line where it's at. But, like, it just wouldn't be shocking for Nick Claxton to go off in this game. Now, if we look at the last game against Boston, not encouraging. Okay, it's not. 9 points, 9 rebounds, 1 assist. So not good there. And maybe this is a bet in which if we get a good number fantasy points wise, maybe 31.5 or so, we could bet the over, because obviously with blocks and stuff, he could get. Then the last game against Boston as well, 9, 14, and 1. So still not over there. So that's not encouraging. So the way you could take that is because he hasn't gotten the over the last 2 games, he is going to. Or, you know, it's just a tough matchup and he's not able to, like, do well against them. I do want to point out that one of those games, Ben Simmons was active, and Ben Simmons had 13 assists and 9 rebounds, soaking up some of that usage. So in theory, Ben Simmons off the court should be able to soak up a little bit more usage. Then we look at Kyrie. This does feel like a short number as well. So if we look at his per 36 numbers with KD and Ben Simmons off the court, averages 32 real life points, okay? Averages 5.3 rebounds and 6.7 assists with those two off the court. So this could be a situation in which you are betting on Kyrie to get the over. Maybe we do fantasy points, averages 50 fantasy points per 36. And given this projection, I don't see the fantasy points being that much higher. So once again, with the 2 Brooklyn bets here, we would pretty much be betting on that game staying close. And for what it's worth with Kyrie, at 42.5, they currently have the over set at -130. Some sports books are giving us 43.5 for a number here. And so with Nick Claxton, some sports books have actually adjusted down to 26.5. And now that's heavily favored for the over, but I just wanted to point that out to you guys. The line started at 28.5 for the over number, and that was pretty much a push. Now some sportsbooks are dropping it down. All right, so going to get into some NHL bets and the pain from yesterday's NHL bet where he was sitting at 2 shots on goal for a majority of the first period. He had 2 shots on goal, and then going into the second period, it was like the last 2 minutes of the second period, he got 2 shots on goal. So just firing off shots at the end of the period. That was bittersweet. He only ended up with 4. I hit the over, but I would take the production that we've had with the NHL bets. Obviously, we are chasing the best odds on the slate, really, by using these NHL bets, and that's why we use them. And so it's no shock that more times than not, it is producing the results that we would like. So a bet that I personally don't love too much. We got David, who's projected to get under 4.5 shots on goal at -135. If I'm going to do an NHL bet, I want it to be at least -140, honestly. So I probably just want to chase that. Like, we can get the -135 odds on a lot of the NBA bets, and that's why I like the board for NBA today more so than typical days. So there's no need to chase an NHL bet at -135 today. Another one that's similar to that, and if you guys want to, you can. Would be William under 3.5 shots on goal, same odds, -135 for the under, but they are setting the over of 3.5 shots on goal at +120. So they're pretty much kind of saying that it should be a line of 3. And then basically the exact same situation with this bet, and we can see very much hit or miss here. +120 to get the over 3.5 shots on goal and -135 to get under shots on goal. And if I pull up DK Sportsbook, they are favoring this one at -145, which is a good number. Collectively, they're pretty much saying 3 shots on goal. So in theory, this is probably the best bet that we're getting, but I don't like the fact that he's crushed it, the over 3 times, but we can see the inconsistency there. And for what it's worth, guys, I don't mind the SGA over 31.5 points going against Houston. That should be very much be a game in which he is able to go off. He has just been on a tear recently with Dort off the court, Alexei and James Earl Robinson. SGA has really just been dominating. Okay, he missed the over, painfully for me, on one betting ticket 2 nights ago by a 0.5 point. That was painful. But this is another matchup in which it wouldn't be shocking to see him really go off and have a great game with those players off the court. So another one that we could potentially do. So the biggest issue that I'm having tonight with how solid of a board that we have is really narrowing down which ones I value as the best bets. It's kind of with the Taco Tuesday video that I posted yesterday afternoon, where a lot of them were really strong bets and paid off. It was tough to really narrow down which ones I was like on the most. Okay, so I would suggest like that's kind of the approach today, is maybe we're just mix and matching a lot of these where we're not dialing in as much as we typically would. You know, Derek White over 11.5 points. Personally, I feel like that should be a really strong one as long as the game stays close. And then we could use one of the stronger bets that we're getting, like Polzin, -135 to get the over, projected to get 3 assists. So over 2.5 assists. We could do SABONIS over 12.5 rebounds. It is a high number. I don't like that. But once again, -131 across the board. Is projected to get actually almost 13.9 rebounds tonight against the Spurs. Obviously a good matchup. Don't like the fact that he hasn't been able to get there the last few games. But, you know, tougher matchups. Rudy Gobert, Toronto, that's tough. Memphis probably should have got there. And then Philly, obviously a tough matchup there. So a much better matchup tonight against the Spurs. And it's like the ultimate get right spot for him. I do like De'Aaron Fox's chances of getting over 25.5 points. Remember, this is much more based off of the projections that we're pulling in, based off of the matchup rather than the Vegas odds that we're getting. And then if we are loading up on Sabonis and Fox, I don't mind the idea of doing a stack. So you can run it back with Sochan and maybe possibly Trey Jones. And maybe that's what today's slate is developing into, is more. And I don't want to suggest doing stacks because we're reducing the odds of it hitting by adding in another leg to the stack, but it does kind of feel like it's more of a stacking day. And then the strongest bet that we're getting on paper today, considering Vegas odds, was CP3 at -142 collectively to get under 10.5 assists. And so I would say if we're doing this bet, we wouldn't then do Cam Johnson over points. You know, that just doesn't correlate to me. I do think the Cam Johnson over points is going to be a good one as well, though. And so here's what I'd be looking at for the top bets on today. Once again, it is very much a slate in which we are getting a lot of really solid bets. So for me personally this morning, I wasn't able to really narrow it down as much as I would like to. So I'm not going to give a bet of the day just yet. I would say probably CP3 is the one we want to use. And then I am going to mix and match that with Sochan, with Fox, with Sabonis to do some 2-leg bets. Okay, I feel pretty decent about that. We at least know that we're going to get favorable odds as it sits right now. But that's all I have for you guys for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you do, make sure to give a like and subscribe. That helps me be able to pump out more content for you guys. Let's have a good slate, guys. And as always, let's keep cashing.